Recording now. It's recording now. Okay. So this lesson is about starting your shares DI. This investigation is something that scientists often do, which is like a retrospective analysis where data already exists and you're going back in time to see trends in the data. You're doing that with shares. You're proposing a conjecture. Is there what other word can I use for conjecture? It starts with a H. Yeah, you're making a guess at something that will happen, and then you're using the data to see if that happened. You're making a conjecture about the share market that you can test by pretending to have a budget of 60 grand to spend on buying shares 1 year ago. You then sell the shares around about now. To answer the conjecture, you're going to investigate all the income from ownership of those shares. So where does income come from with shares? Capital gains and dividends. I haven't taught you dividends yet. That's fine. You can start the assignment. This investigation is easy as long as you make decisions quickly. If you sit there going, and I don't know whether my topic is good enough, no one cares. You're not being marked on the quality of the topic. You're being marked on the quality of the maths. So some people I've sort of treated spitefully because they spent like 8 weeks not deciding on a topic. And I just said, your topic is, will companies that start with the letter A do better than companies that start with the letter B? Because you can still do the assignment successfully on that, right? You could try to make it interesting for you, but don't waste time, okay? You just need to make sure that your conjecture can be justified in some way and that you can test it by comparing the performance of 6 companies split into 2 portfolios of 3 companies each. Can someone suggest to me why you're not just going to compare one company with another? Because you could do that. But what's the weakness of doing that? Yes?
That it's limiting the amount of data you can collect.
Yes. Why in science do we average out 3 trials? Because we don't want it might be a fluke. Okay? If your question is about electric cars and you choose Tesla, that's kind of biased. Okay? So that's why you're doing 3 companies in each portfolio to compare the portfolios. Okay? This year, I'm also going to limit you to purchasing shares that are on the US stock exchange or Australian, because a lot of people last year got confused about converting money, and there's no exercise on converting money. Okay? I don't want you to stuff up maths on converting money and not be able to do the assignment, because that's not what the assignment's about. This means your conjecture needs to limit itself to AUD or USD only. I will show you how to convert to USD next lesson. So this lesson, all I will do is show you how to decide a conjecture, how to decide the companies, and check if they're suitable on Yahoo Finance. I'll show you what I want you to email me, so I have a list of conjectures from all of you people. And then I will show you how to find the buying and selling prices so you can screenshot them for your DI. So you can literally do the maths now. You could do the buying, you could do the selling, you could do break even, you could do capital gains. You could do about 1/3 of the DI already. So how do I decide a conjecture? I've put on the package online an example of some existing or previous shares DI topics. Here's some conjectures before. Investing in airline companies will produce a greater return than rideshare companies. So if my conjecture was that, what would 3 of my companies be?
Rideshare.
And what would the other 3 companies be?
Airline.
Yeah, you don't need to be a year 12 to decide that, okay? Investing in motor companies would produce a greater return than fast food companies. Ford, GM, Tesla, motor companies. Fast food, Yum Brands. What else? McDonald's. The problem with that is that you guys don't know, like KFC isn't KFC. KFC is owned by Yum Brands. You need to research that, right? You need to work out what is actually on the share market, not just, I'll just do KFC. That's not what's on Yahoo Finance. So you can do that research. All right. So if you have trouble deciding, just use one of these. All right. Because these have all worked. I've got these DIs. I just wrote down what their conjecture was about. I've got these DIs from past years. Also, can you try to make sure that you can justify why someone would have the conjecture? Okay, your conjecture will look silly if you can't support it somehow with research, if you just make it up. So I just put this together the other day. My example conjecture is it's better to buy shares in US airlines than US banking companies. Why? Well, just in my head, I didn't do the research first. I just said in my head, after COVID, were airlines struggling? Was anyone flying around after COVID?
No.
Has it been a few years since COVID? So you reckon they'd be recovering a little bit? That's my argument. I'm literally, that was what was going on in my head, what I'm asking you now. So I found a reference that showed me that airlines are recovering. I'll show you on Google. The website literally has a graph that shows in 2020, these are the number of seats on airplanes. Was the 2021 lower? Then is it going up as we go to the years, further and further? So that's my evidence to say that airlines are recovering, right? And then in the same time period after COVID, interest rates have been massive. So people haven't been able to afford to buy houses. If people can't afford to buy houses, are banks going to put out loans for people? They can't afford them anyway. So my argument is that banks probably aren't doing that well because interest rates are really high. And then I found a similar reference to say that there's not very many loan approvals. Here's why it's gotten so much harder to get a loan in the US. So if I chuck those references in, I gave you that paragraph. Is there a reason for my conjecture? It's plausible. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be plausible, right? So there's my conjecture and the justification. So I'd like you to do that. Second, how do you decide on companies and check they're suitable on Yahoo Finance? I don't know much about US companies. You don't know much about US companies either. The internet knows about US companies. You can ask ChatGPT if you want. If I decided my conjecture is about US airline companies and US banking companies, Google those terms and choose 3 from each. I will show you what I Googled. What did I Google here?
American airline companies.
Do I have a list of American airline companies that I didn't know about before?
Yeah.
Could I choose the top 3?
Yep.
What did I Google here?
American banking companies.
Do I have a list of 3 that I didn't know about before?
Yes.
Good. Quickly choose. But you just need to confirm if it's possible. You then need to check that these exist on Yahoo Finance as something called an equity and that their money is in US dollars. I will show you that process now. This will be saved on the video. So, sorry, someone in the lunchtime tutorial was talking about some Russian lady that said you could survive by eating only fruit, and she died. Yahoo Finance. What was one of those companies there? American Airlines. So what we're doing is checking if this is possible. American Airlines. That first group up there, does it say equity? That's what I'm after. Click on that. The last check that you need to do is, does it say that it's in USD? Yeah. This is possible. Screenshot this. How do I get the buying price? I'm going to make a new Word document. How do I start my actual assignment? Go to chart. You're buying 1 year ago, so I'll make the graph 1Y for 1 year ago. Move the cursor to the 14th. I've got $16.51. Screenshot that. Does anyone know what the screenshot button is for Apple?
Command Shift 3.
That's for the whole screen. How do I do a little target? Command Shift 4. You can screenshot that. Drag it into. You can make a little. You could say this is the buying price for American Airlines was $16.51. Okay. Could I do that for the remaining 2 companies in the airlines? Could I do that for the other companies? Yes? Yeah, make sure it's an equity. Make sure the currency is in USD or Australian dollars. So what does it look like when it's an Australian company? What's an Australian company? Someone? What's our airline? Qantas. Qantas, equity, ASX. Click. Is that in AUD? It's $5.75. I can screenshot, etc. You just need to find this information to start. You don't have any numbers. Okay. After that, can you please email me your conjecture and company choice? So what would I email Mr. T if his conjecture was that? I would email myself, it is better to purchase shares in US airline companies than US banking companies. What are the companies that I chose? Those 6. Done. Just email me that so I have an idea that you can actually start your assignment. Because if you're here after 4 weeks and haven't decided anything, that due date that's been moved out is not going to be very nice anymore. Finding the buying and selling prices and screenshotting them from your DI. I just showed you that. Yes, question?
Do the companies have to be US or can they be Australian as well?
Either or. Please don't do Japanese or anything. It was too hard for people last year. I know that some of you might want to do conjectures involving that other stuff, but what's more important? You getting a good score in year 12 or you making a question that you absolutely care about? Okay? Just limit it to US dollars and Australian dollars. All this information can be found on Yahoo Finance. I already showed you that. The final thing that you should do before starting the maths is find a broker to use. I'm trying to help you out here. Instead of you choosing your own, I suggest you use Self-Wealth, as it provides an easy reference and shows you the prices for Australian dollars and US trading. I'll show you that quickly. If you go Self-Wealth, price comparison for Australian trading. What does it say? How much am I going to spend on brokerage if I'm trading in Australia? It's a flat fee. If I scroll down, how much does it say I'm going to pay if I'm trading in the US? Be careful. It says what the currency is. Is it still 950? Well, it's 950 what? Australian or US? US, okay. See, you could screenshot this, chuck it into your DI. Can you do buying calculations now? Do I know what the American Airlines prices are? Do I know how much I'm going to pay in brokerage? You could do half the maths already, okay? One last thing, if you are purchasing US companies, before you do the maths, find one reference for currency conversion to use for your DI if you're purchasing shares in US dollars. Yahoo Finance shows this right at the top, or you can Google it. You're using one conversion for the whole DI. Does the money conversion change literally every freaking day? Only use one. No one cares that hard that you're doing the conversion every different day. Do it once. And is there a section in your DI where you can talk about stuff that you did dodgy? What section is that?
Limitations.
The limitations? Talk about that and tell me the possible effects, okay? Yeah, I said there, this is an assumption you need to talk about in the discussion of your DI. Okay, I'm not teaching anything. This is all I want you to do over the course of this week. If you've looked at all of your notes, it's all about making a start on your assignment. So I'll stop the video there.